at 7:18 p.m. I was standing under the glass roof of Lark House Conservatory with a tray of untouched champagne flutes, sweating on the linen table beside me, trying not to look like the only person there who had come straight from a 12-hour shift. 74 donor name tags were clipped to lapels and silk blouses. I knew the number because my sister Vivian had made me help stuff the place cards that afternoon at her clinic, each one tucked into a cream envelope with a gold leaf logo for Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness. The gala was supposed to raise money for a community access initiative, which, from what I had seen, meant donors writing checks while standing between orchids and framed before and after photos of jawlines. Vivian moved through the room like she owned the lights. White satin suit, pearl earrings, her clinic director badge catching every camera flash. Every few minutes, she laughed and touched someone's arm, then glanced toward the compliance display near the silent auction table. That poster was what I kept staring at. It stood on an easel beside a basket of skincare samples and a clipboard for recurring donations. The header read, Medical Compliance and Patient Safety, and below it, in neat navy print, was my full name. Claire Bennett, RN.under. That was my license number. My actual license number. The same number I had scribbled on medication logs at 5:40 that morning while checking insulin against a patient's MAR. The same number I guarded like my bank account. In my black work tote, shoved under the co-check table 20 feet away, I had a manila folder bent at one corner. Inside were screenshots of the state license listing, 3 certified mail receipts with green tracking stickers, and a printed complaint receipt stamped with a date from the nursing board portal. I had brought it because Vivian had promised me, in writing, that before a single donor arrived, she would remove my name from every clinic document. Instead, my name was on a poster. Claire, my mother hissed from behind a potted palm. Stand up straight. You look exhausted. I am exhausted, I said. She smiled without showing teeth. Not tonight. Vivian appeared at my elbow with a donor couple I recognized from the place cards. Martin and Elise Wexler, both holding tiny plates with 1 mushroom tart each. And this is my sister, Vivian said brightly. Claire. Elise looked at my scrubs, which I had covered with a borrowed black cardigan after Vivian texted, Please don't come looking hospital. Oh, are you part of the clinical team? Before I could answer, Vivian gave a light laugh and squeezed my shoulder hard enough that her ring pressed into my collarbone. Claire's just family help tonight, she said. She likes to feel useful, my mother added, loud enough for the donor behind us to hear. We keep telling her not everyone is meant for the front of the house. Martin Wexler chuckled politely, the way men do when they don't want to understand they've just witnessed something ugly. Vivian tilted her head toward the easel. Come on, Claire. Smile for a quick photo by the compliance poster. Donors love seeing that we're a family operation. I looked at my name printed under the clinic logo, then at the tote under the co-check table with the folder inside it. My fingers were still creased from hospital gloves. My phone buzzed once in my cardigan pocket. Probably another message from the charge nurse asking if I could swap Sunday. I didn't leave because my license was on that poster, and if I walked out, Vivian would keep smiling beside it without me. I slid my phone out just far enough to see the lock screen. 6:42 p.m., 3 missed texts from Mercy West, and 1 from Vivian that she had sent while standing 15 feet away from me. Please don't make this weird tonight. That was Vivian. If she taped your name to a wall without asking, the rude part was you noticing. I'm 34, and I've been a registered nurse for 12 years. Most nights, I worked the cardiac step-down unit at Mercy West, the kind of floor where you learn to read a family's panic before the monitor alarms. I'm good at details. Too good, according to my mother. I keep receipts, scan forms, label folders, save voicemails, and print anything that sounds like it might become a problem later. That habit didn't come from paranoia. It came from being the oldest daughter in a house where everyone else was too busy to remember deadlines. Dad's disability paperwork. I did it at 22 from the kitchen table with a black pen and a cup of cold coffee. Mom's insurance appeals after her gallbladder surgery. Me, Vivian's college immunization forms. Her first apartment lease, the vendor contracts for her pop-up skincare booth before Vellum even had a real sign. Also me. By the time Vivian opened Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness in a narrow brick storefront on Juniper Street, I was the family person who understood medical paperwork. That phrase got used for everything. HIPAA A binders, consent forms, refrigerator temperature logs, even the framed copy of Vivian's business license because she didn't like how the first mat looked. If you've ever been the paperwork person in your family, hit like so I know I'm not the only one who can't attend a birthday without being asked to fix a portal login. Subscribe if you want the rest of this. because the folder under that coat check table was not there by accident. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I read them after shifts, usually in my car before I go inside. The first time Vivian asked about my license, she made it sound harmless. It was February 3rd, 8:11 p.m. I remember because I had just clocked out and bought a turkey sandwich from the hospital cafe before driving home. She called me while I was in the parking garage. "Claire, quick question," she said. "For the state profile, can I list you as our clinical consultant? Not working, just consultant. It makes the online form cleaner." "No," I said, balancing the phone between my shoulder and ear while I dug for my keys. "I don't supervise your clinic. I don't review your charts. I'm not attached to Vellum. You're making it sound shady. I'm making it sound accurate." She sighed like I had ruined her evening. "Fine, I'll figure it out." The next morning, at 9:27, I sent her an email anyway. Subject line, "Do not list my RN license for Vellum." It said she did not have permission to use my license number, name, or credentials for clinic oversight, advertising, donor materials, state listings, or compliance documents. I copied myself. I saved it as a PDF. I printed it. 3 weeks later, I found my name on the state's public license-linked facility listing. Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness, Clinical Nursing Oversight, Claire Bennett, RN. I took the first screenshot at my dining table, with my cereal bowl still beside the laptop. The file name was boring on purpose. Vellum_state listing _0227_641 AM. I emailed Vivian again that same morning. No answer. I sent a certified letter to the clinic on March 4th. The green receipt came back with a signature that looked like her office manager's, Tasha Bell. At the gala, Tasha was standing by the silent auction table, wearing a black jumpsuit and lining up bid sheets for spa packages. She looked at me, then looked away too fast. Vivian touched my elbow. "Claire, the photographer's ready." I looked past her at the compliance poster. My license number was in 12-point font under a gold seal clip art. "I'm not taking a picture with that," I said. Her smile tightened. "Still aim toward the donors. Then stand there and don't talk." I stayed beside the compliance poster because walking away would have made a scene. And in my family, making a scene was treated like a felony unless Vivian did it first. She shifted half a step in front of me, blocking the line with my license number from the donor's cameras. "Claire gets nervous at events," she said to a man in a navy jacket with a Lark House name tag that read Preston Vale. "She's more comfortable helping behind the scenes." Behind the scenes meant I had ironed the table runners in the staff pantry at 5:15 because Vivian said they looked county fair. It meant I had found Dad's missing cufflink in the cup holder of Mom's Buick. It meant I had typed the donor place cards because Tasha spelled 3 last names wrong, then watched Vivian point at them and say, "We keep things very polished here." Mom floated over in her champagne satin jacket, the one she wore for church photos and Chamber of Commerce luncheons. She kissed the air near Vivian's cheek, then looked at me. "Can you check if the salmon trays are coming out? The alderman is at table 6 and he notices these things." "I'm not staff, Mom." Her smile stayed fixed. "No, sweetheart, your family." "That's different." That was always the sentence. Your family. So it wasn't babysitting when I took Vivian's twins overnight after 12-hour shifts. Your family. So it wasn't accounting when I sorted Dad's Medicare paperwork into blue folders. Your family. So it wasn't professional labor when Vivian called me from Vellum to ask whether a post-procedure fever sounded normal. Then introduced me at events as my sister, Claire. She's a nurse, but not really involved. Dad stood near the fern wall with his hand on Vivian's husband's shoulder, laughing too loudly at something one of the donors said. My father loved a room where people could see he had produced a successful daughter. Singular. Vivian was the daughter with the cream clinic sign on Juniper Street, the framed magazine clipping, the ribbon-cutting photo with the mayor. I was the reliable one. Reliable did not get applause. Reliable got a text that said, "Can you bring ice?" Tasha came up carrying a clipboard and a roll of clear tape around her wrist. "Viv, the photographer wants board members under the arch in 2 minutes." Vivian's eyes flicked to the poster, then to me. "Claire, just stay tucked in. If anyone asks, you assisted with early compliance setup." "No," I said. Tasha's pen stopped moving. Vivian's voice dropped so low, only the 3 of us could hear it over the string quartet. "Not tonight. You listed my nursing license on a state facility profile after I told you no." She gave a small laugh through her teeth, still smiling at the crowd. "It's not a facility profile, it's administrative." Tasha handled it. Tasha looked down at her clipboard. I reached into my clutch and touched the folded printout I had brought because I already knew how my family worked. If I spoke without paper, I was emotional. If I brought paper, I was dramatic. Either way, Vivian got to be the calm one. Mom reappeared with 2 empty wine glasses pinched between her fingers. Claire, please don't hover with that face. Go make yourself useful. Vivian softened instantly for her audience. Mom, it's fine. Claire's just being Claire. There it was, wrapped in velvet. The family shorthand that meant difficult, jealous, too sensitive, always turning things into a problem. Dad heard it from across the aisle and gave me the warning look he used when we were kids at restaurants and Vivian had spilled a drink, but I was expected to mop it up with napkins. At 6:48, the photographer raised his camera and said, Vellum leadership, big smiles. Vivian reached back without looking and caught my wrist. Her fingers pressed the pulse point below my thumb, hard enough to remind me that she expected obedience and soft enough that no donor would notice. Stand by the poster, she whispered. 1 picture. For the clinic. I pulled my hand free. The flash went off anyway, catching Vivian smiling under the gold lettering while I stood half out of frame, my clutch open. The corner of my February 4th email visible between my fingers. I didn't make a scene in front of Preston Vale or the photographer. I closed my clutch, stepped backward into a fern, and said, I need the restroom. Vivian's smile stayed locked on for the next donor. Claire, don't be dramatic. I'm not, I said, and kept walking. The restroom was past the bar. Behind a velvet rope, somebody had moved aside for the caterers. Inside, the music from the conservatory turned into a dull thump under the marble sinks. I set my clutch on the counter and pulled out my phone with hands that were steadier than I felt. At 6:51 p.m., I went to Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness's website. The compliance and clinical oversight page loaded slowly because the Lark House Wi-Fi was awful. When it came up, there it was in clean navy font. Clinical license oversight. Claire Bennett, RN. Under that, my full license number. New consultant, new and active, no permission, no context. My name sitting under Vivian's clinic logo like a piece of borrowed jewelry. I took screenshots, one of the full-page one zoomed in on my license number, one with the website address visible at the top. Then I opened the state license lookup on my phone and searched my own name. Because if anyone ever asked, I wanted a clean comparison showing my license was active and mine. A woman in a sequined green dress came in, glanced at me and said, Long night. You have no idea, I said, and saved the screenshots to a folder I named Vellum License. At 6:58, I forwarded the screenshots to myself from my personal email and typed a new message to Vivian and Tasha. Subject: Remove my nursing license from Vellum Materials tonight. I wrote, Vivian, Tasha. I did not authorize Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness to list my RN license for compliance, oversight, supervision, marketing, donor materials, or any clinic function. I told you this in writing on February 4th. Remove my name and license number from the website. Poster, packets, and donor materials immediately. Do not represent me as clinical oversight. I attached the screenshots and the February 4th email. I hesitated before adding Mom, then didn't. Mom would call it humiliating Vivian. Dad would call it bad timing. This needed to be clean. I pressed send at 7:03 p.m. The second I walked back out, Tasha was waiting near the coat check, holding a clipboard against her chest. Claire, she said quietly, Vivian wants you by table 6 for the sponsor thank yous. I emailed you. Her mouth tightened. Tonight is not the night. That's exactly why I sent it tonight. She looked over her shoulder toward the glass doors, where Vivian was laughing with a man in a gray suit. The site copy is old. It's just placeholder language. With my active license number, Tasha lowered her voice. I can fix the website tomorrow and the poster. She didn't answer. I walked past her to the check-in table, where the Gala packets were stacked beside a brass bowl of name tags. A volunteer had stepped away, leaving the donor folders in neat rows. I picked up one labeled Vellum Growth Circle and opened it just enough to see the same compliance page printed on cream cardstock. My name, my license number. Vivian's signature printed beneath a welcome letter. I didn't take the folder. I wasn't going to be accused of stealing donor materials. I laid it flat under the table lamp and photographed the page with the packet cover beside it, then put it back exactly where it had been. At 7-Eleven, I paid the coat check girl $5 in cash to borrow a pen, because the little golf pencils on the table were useless. On the back of my parking valet ticket, I wrote, website, poster, donor packet, photo at 6:48. Tasha saw, Vivian directed. I folded it behind my driver's license. Then I left through the side door by the catering vans, not the front entrance where Vivian could catch me smiling for one more picture. In the cold air behind Lark House, I opened the email again and hit print to the 24-hour copy shop 3 blocks away. If they wanted polish, I wanted paper. The copy shop on Mercer had one clerk behind plexiglass and a wall clock that said 9:18 p.m. I gave him my order number, and while the printer warmed up, I stood beside the self-serve laminator with my phone in my hand, scrolling backward through old messages I had never wanted to turn into evidence. The first one was a phone call from Vivian on March 12th, 3 years earlier. I knew the date because I had saved the voicemail after listening to it in the break room at Mercy West, still wearing my navy scrub top with a blood pressure cuff hanging out of one pocket. Claire, quick question. Vivian had said, bright and rushed, like she was ordering coffee. If a vendor form asks whether we have an RN affiliated, I can put you right. It's not like you're treating anyone. It just calms people down. I called her back from the stairwell by the pediatric wing at 2:41 p.m. The stairwell smelled like disinfectant and wet wool from everyone's coats. Viv, no. Affiliated means something. Don't put my name unless I review what it's for. She sighed into the phone. You always make it sound so criminal. I'm trying to get a small business off the ground. I'm trying to keep my license clean. Okay. Forget I asked, but she didn't forget. 2 weeks later, she texted, all good, used family consultant instead. No worries. I remember staring at the little thumbs up emoji she added, feeling like I had been difficult for enforcing the most basic line. The second thing I found was a photo from my mother's 70th birthday dinner at Brindle and Ash, the kind of place with heavy menus and candles that made everyone look kinder than they were. The reservation card on the table said Wexler, party, 12, and Vivian had arrived late in a cream blazer, kissing the air near my cheek. When I went to sit next to my mother, Tasha touched my elbow. Actually, Claire, we put you over here, she said, pointing to the end of the table near the coat hooks. My place card had been moved beside Uncle Ron, who spent the night asking whether nurses still did bedpans, while Vivian sat in the center and described Vellum's clinical standard to my mother's friends. Mom lifted her wine glass and said, let your sister have her moment. You don't need attention like she does. I cut my salmon into tiny pieces and watched Vivian accept compliments for being the medical one in the family, even though her degree was in hospitality management and mine was the one that required continuing education, charting, and a board that could discipline me. The third was the paperwork favor. It was June 6th of last year, 8:12 a.m., and Vivian showed up at my apartment with iced coffee and a manila folder while I was packing for a double shift. She had on sunglasses, even though the hallway had no windows. I just need your signature on this internal policy thing, she said. It's for the lease file. The landlord likes seeing medical language. The document was clipped with a silver binder clip. At the top, it said, Vellum Wellness Client Safety Protocol, Revision 1. I stood at my kitchen counter, my lunch bag open beside a banana and 2 granola bars, and read the first paragraph. Vivian, this says I approve all client safety procedures. It's boilerplate. It says quarterly review. No one is going to call you. It's a boutique hydration and skin clinic, not an ICU. I slid the paper back without signing. Her face tightened. Not angry exactly, just inconvenienced. You know, other sisters help. They don't cross-examine every favor. Other sisters don't ask for a nursing license without responsibility attached. She took the folder, left the coffee on my counter, and said from the doorway, this is why I asked Tasha first. At Mercer, the printer clicked and spat out the first stack. Screenshots. My February refusal. Tonight's email, the donor packet photo. The clerk tapped the pages straight on the counter and asked if I wanted envelopes. Certified mailers. I said, 3. As he reached under the register, my phone buzzed. Vivian, don't make tonight weird. We'll fix wording Monday. Then Tasha, please do not send dramatic emails during a donor event. I placed my phone face up beside the warm pages and took a pen from the chained cup. On the top copy, I wrote, pattern predates Gala, prior verbal refusals, prior unsigned policy request, not feelings, dates. By 4:18 p.m. on Friday, I had the 3 certified mail receipts tucked inside the back pocket of my work planner. One envelope had gone to Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness. Attention Vivian Mercer, at the River Street Suite. One went to their registered agent, the name I'd pulled from the Secretary of State site while standing at the counter in the Mercer copy shop. The third went to the State Nursing Board's intake office with the complaint form, the license listing screenshots, and copies of the emails I'd sent that no one had answered. At 4:46, My phone buzzed while I was in the parking lot outside the post office. It was a group text from my mother, titled Saturday Lark House. Mom, Claire, please confirm you'll attend tomorrow. Vivian has donors expecting the whole family there. Then Vivian, 30 seconds later, Vivian, it's not optional. Please don't make this about you. Wear something neutral and professional. No scrubs. No conversations with donors about operations. Just support the family. I sat in my car with the engine off, still wearing my navy cardigan from work, and read it twice. Tasha added a thumbs-up reaction to Vivian's text, then wrote, Tasha, we'll put you at check-in for the first hour so you're not overwhelmed. Mom wants one picture near the sponsor wall at 7. Not overwhelmed. That was the phrase they used whenever they meant controlled. I typed back with my thumb.me. I'll attend as a guest. I won't staff check-in. I won't discuss vellum operations or allow anyone to represent that I oversee clinical services. Vivian replied almost immediately. Vivian, nobody is representing anything. You are family. Please act like it for one night. Then, after a pause, Vivian, also, don't bring paperwork. This is a gala, Claire. That line told me exactly what she was worried about. I drove home by way of Dalton Avenue because Maine was jammed with Friday traffic. The post office receipt still sitting on the passenger seat. At 5:23, I parked behind my building, took a photo of the green certified mail slips on my dashboard, and uploaded it into the folder labeled Vellum License Issue. Inside my apartment, I set my tote bag on the kitchen chair and emptied it completely. I didn't want to discover an old work badge or a medication reference card at the worst possible moment and hand them a prop. On my bed, I laid out the clothes first. A black knee-length wrap dress with long sleeves, low black flats, my gray wool coat, and small silver hoops. Nothing clinical, nothing that looked like staff. Then I packed the tote, my wallet, my phone charger, my keys, a travel pack of tissues, a pen, a folded printed copy of my nursing license from the state lookup page, with the issue date and number visible. The 3 state license listing screenshots showing Vellum's site and donor PDF with my license number. Copies of the certified emails I'd sent to Vivian, Tasha, and the clinic's general inbox. The post office receipts, and the board complaint receipt I had downloaded at 5:41 after the online portal finally accepted the upload. At the top of that receipt was a temporary case number and the line assigned for preliminary review. No investigator name yet. I slid everything into a plain manila folder and wrote on the tab in block letters, license listing, no consent. At 6:12, Mom called. I let it ring once, then answered on speaker while I clipped my hair back in the bathroom mirror. Claire, she said, already tired, your sister is under tremendous pressure. This event has 74 confirmed donors. The mayor's wife may be there. Can you please not embarrass us? I'm going to attend quietly, I said, but I'm not helping run the event. You're a nurse, she said. People respect that. Vivian is proud of you. Then she can say I'm her sister. I said, not her clinical oversight. Mom exhaled through her nose. Don't use legal-sounding words at Lark House. They're accurate words. There was a long rustle, like she'd moved the phone from one ear to the other. Just smile in the family photos. She said, that's all anyone needs. I looked at the manila folder sitting on my dresser beside my earrings. I'll smile if I choose to. I said, I'm not posing beside anything with my license number on it. Mom didn't answer right away. Then she said, softer, Vivian said you might be difficult. I turned off the bathroom light and picked up the folder. Vivian should update her donor materials. I said, at 6:38 the next evening, I ordered a rideshare instead of driving because I wanted a time-stamped record of when I arrived and left. The car was a white Camry with a cracked phone mount and lavender air freshener swinging from the mirror. Destination, Lark House Conservatory. I kept the tote on my lap the entire ride, one hand resting over the folder tab. The Camry dropped me at the circular drive at 6:54 p.m., according to the rideshare receipt that popped up before I even stepped onto the curb. Lark House Conservatory looked prettier than it had any right to look. All glass panels and white-painted ironwork, with boxwood planters lining the entrance and gold uplights pointed at the old brick. A valet in a green jacket opened the door for a couple ahead of me. I waited behind them, tote strapped tight over my shoulder, and watched a woman at the check-in table run her finger down a printed list clipped to a board. Name, she asked when I reached her. Claire Merritt. She looked up too quickly. Oh, you're with Vellum. I'm attending as a guest, I said. She hesitated, then picked up a badge from a neat row of plastic sleeves. Mine said Claire Merritt in large letters, and under it, in smaller, gray type, family support. Not RN. Not consultant. Not licensed nurse. Family support. I didn't argue at the door. I just took the badge, turned it slightly so I could read the small sponsor line at the bottom: Vellum, Aesthetics and Wellness Gala, Lark House Conservatory, 7 p.m. Clipped it to the outside of my cardigan. Inside, the conservatory had been divided into 3 sections. To the left was a bar station under a lemon tree in a wooden planter. Straight ahead were 10 round tables dressed in cream linens, 8 seats at most of them, with 2 smaller sponsored tables near the front. To the right was the silent auction, spa baskets, a weekend cabin stay, a framed watercolor of the river, and a private dinner donated by someone whose name I recognized from Vivian's donor emails. There were 74 place cards. I counted because numbers had become the only thing in this mess that didn't change depending on who was talking. At the front of the room, near a small riser and microphone, there was a sponsor wall with Vellum's logo in sage green. Beside it stood a foam core compliance poster on an easel. The title read, "Patient Safety is Our Promise." Below that were neat bullet points about licensed oversight, chart review, and state standards. Then I saw my license number. Not my name in big print. Not my role explained. Just my active RN license number tucked beneath a line that said, "Clinical compliance reviewed under licensed nursing supervision." I stopped so abruptly the man behind me bumped my tote. "Sorry," he said, then followed my stare. He was older, maybe early 60s, with silver glasses and a donor ribbon on his lapel. "Is something wrong with the sign?" Before I could answer, a woman in a navy wrap dress stepped in from the registration table. Her name tag read Elise Parker, event coordinator. She lowered her voice. "You're Claire, right?" "Yes." She glanced at the poster, then at my badge. "I printed the materials from the final packet Vivian sent yesterday. Your license number was in the footer of 3 pages. I asked if it needed your credentials next to it, and she said, no. Claire is just family help tonight." The donor with silver glasses didn't move away. He pretended to study the auction list, but he was listening. I kept my voice even. "Did she send that by email?" Elisa's hand tightened around her clipboard. "Yes. Yesterday at 4:12 p.m., the attachment was called Gala_compliance_final.pdf. That file name lodged in my head like a thumbtack. Across the room, Vivian stood near table 1 in a cream suit, laughing with 2 women holding champagne flutes. Our mother was beside her, touching Vivian's elbow every few seconds like she was positioning a centerpiece. Daniel, Vivian's husband, was at the bar shaking hands with a man from the bank. A printed program lay on the nearest table. I picked it up and opened it. Page 2 listed the evening schedule. Welcome remarks at 7:10. Donor recognition at 7:25. Vellum care model at 7:40. Paddle raise at 8:05. On page 4, under clinical standards, the same phrase appeared again. Licensed nursing supervision. My phone buzzed. "Vivian, you're here. Great. Come to the sponsor wall for photos in 5. Smile, please." I looked from the text to the poster, then to Elise, who was still standing close enough to hear me breathe. "I need a copy of that final packet," I said. Elise swallowed. "I can't hand out client files during the event." "Then don't," I said. "Just don't delete it." At 7:03 p.m., I took one photo of the poster, one of my badge, and one of the program page with my thumb holding it open. Then I walked toward the sponsor wall because Vivian had asked me to stand beside my own license number and pretend it belonged to her story. Vivian was already at the sponsor wall when I reached it, angled toward a man in a navy suit with a gold Lark House donor pin. The wall behind her had the clinic logo in soft green, 3 pharmaceutical sponsors, and the big framed compliance poster on an easel just to the right, like it was part of the decor. "There she is," Vivian said, slipping her hand around my elbow before I could decide where to stand. Her fingers pressed hard enough that I felt the edge of her ring. "Claire helps us with family logistics, keeps me sane." The donor smiled without looking at my badge. "Every founder needs one of those." Vivian laughed lightly. "Exactly, she's wonderful with details. Gift bags, check-in, anything with a clipboard." I looked at him, then at her. "I'm a registered nurse." Vivian's smile stayed fixed, but her thumb dug into my sleeve. "Of course, honey. We all know that. Tonight isn't a hospital shift." A photographer in a black vest lifted his camera. "Can we get the sisters by the compliance display?" I moved half a step away from the easel. Vivian moved with me. "Actually," I said, keeping my voice low, "I'm not comfortable being photographed next to that." The donor finally looked at the poster. "Is something wrong with it?" Vivian answered before I could. No. Claire gets nervous at events." She prefers not to be front-facing. She's been under a lot of stress. That was how she did it. Not a lie big enough to argue with in public. Just a soft little label that made me look unstable if I corrected it. Across the conservatory, the string quartet shifted into something brighter. At table 4, someone dropped a fork. The Lark House event manager, Mr. Keene, stood near the French doors, checking a laminated schedule. The program said Vivian's remarks started at 7:18. I reached for my phone in my clutch. Vivian leaned closer, still smiling at the donor. Put that away. I'm checking the time. You're making a scene. No, I said. You're asking me to stand beside a public document with my license number on it? Her eyes flicked to the donor, then back to me. Claire. The way she said my name was the same voice she used when we were teenagers, and I had embarrassed her at school by wearing our cousin's old coat. A warning disguised as a plea. The donor cleared his throat. Maybe I'll let you to handle family business. Vivian touched his forearm. Please don't worry. She's here because she loves me. He gave an awkward nod and walked toward the bar. As soon as he was gone, Vivian's face changed. Not angry, exactly. Tired? Annoyed that I had made her manage me in public. You are helping me tonight, she whispered. Mom is here. My board chair is here. 74 people are SVPD. You can stand still for 15 seconds. You listed my license without permission. I listed the clinic's oversight structure. With my number, you sent me advice for months. I sent warnings. She looked past me toward the riser. Do you know what happens if donors think we're messy? They pull pledges, staff hours get cut, patients lose access. But sure, make this about your badge. There it was, not evil. Worse? Maybe. A tidy moral equation where my license was a napkin she could fold under a wobbly table. I turned toward the exit. The conservatory doors were open to the side courtyard, where heaters glowed orange against the dark glass. My car key was in the zipper pocket of my purse. I pictured walking out, driving home, emailing Marisol Grant every photo from my kitchen counter. Then I saw Elise by the check-in table with a white banker's box at her feet. The label on the side read, Final Gala Print Programs, posters, signage. She had one hand on the lid, and a young volunteer was sliding leftover programs into it. If I left now, that box could disappear into Vivian's car, or a dumpster behind Lark House, or some office closet where files got cleaned up before anyone asked. I stopped. Vivian noticed. Thank you. I'm not staying for you, I said. Her smile twitched. Then stay for Mom. I looked at the framed poster one more time. My license number sat under clinical oversight, clean black ink on cream paper, surrounded by flowers and donor logos. At 7:11 p.m., I opened my camera, not for another photo of the poster, but for the room. One slow shot from the sponsor wall to the check-in table, catching the banker's box, the programs, the easel, and Vivian stepping back onto the riser as if she had one. At 7:14, Mr. Keene tapped the microphone on the riser and asked everyone to move closer to the fern wall for Vivian's remarks. The conservatory lights had warmed to that gold setting venues use when they want donors to feel like their checks are already framed. I stayed near the check-in table, close enough to the white banker's box that I could read the Sharpie label again. Elise was sorting the last stack of programs into neat piles, her volunteer badge hanging crooked from a ribbon. Claire, Vivian called, smiling too widely. Can you come here a second? I didn't move fast. I slid my phone into my blazer pocket with the camera still open. She met me halfway, one hand on my elbow, the other holding a silver Sharpie. We need one quick photo before I go up. With who? With me, obviously. And Dr. Patel from Meridian Capital. She nodded toward a man in a navy suit standing beside the compliance poster, holding a champagne flute and pretending not to listen. They're matching gifts tonight. He asked who our clinical lead was. I looked at the poster. My license number was still there under clinical oversight, and now someone had placed a small acrylic sign on the easel shelf. Ask us about our compliance-led model. Vivian, I said, keeping my voice low, you don't have permission to list my license. Her smile stayed fixed, but her fingers tightened on my elbow. Not now. Yes, now. She angled her body so donors saw her profile and not her mouth. Just stand next to me for 30 seconds. Smile if he asks. Say you consult on protocols. That's it. I don't consult for your clinic. You reviewed my intake form in March. I told you it was missing allergy documentation over coffee at Mom's. Her jaw shifted. Claire, please don't embarrass me in front of 74 people because you're splitting hairs. Then she uncapped the Sharpie and pressed a cream card against my hand. It was one of the donor table cards, pre-printed with the clinic logo and tonight's date, April 26th, 7 p.m., Lark House Conservatory. Under the logo, in glossy black letters, it said, Clinical Oversight Acknowledgement. My name was already typed beneath a blank signature line. I read it twice. It said, I acknowledged ongoing review of client screening, injectable treatment policies, adverse event escalation, and staff competency files for Vivian's clinic. It had my RN license number printed below my name. Sign this for the display, Vivian whispered. We'll tuck it behind the acrylic holder. It just reassures people. No, it's not a legal contract. It's an acknowledgement with my license number on it. It's for donors. That makes it worse. A photographer hovered 2 steps away with his camera raised. Dr. Patel had turned fully toward us now. Behind him, 2 women with pearl earrings were watching while pretending to admire the floral arrangement. Public enough, I thought. Loud enough, if she kept pushing. Vivian's voice thinned. Then at least don't stand there looking hostile. Smile for the photo and I'll remove the number from the website Monday. You already told me last month you removed it. Her eyes flicked to my pocket, like she'd just realized where my phone was. I pulled the card from her hand and held it up. Not high like a protest sign, just chest level so I could read the bottom line clearly. I am not signing this. I am not your clinical oversight. You do not have permission to use my nursing license on your gala poster, your website, or donor materials. The photographer lowered his camera halfway. Mr. Keene stepped off the riser. Is there an issue with signage? Vivian laughed once, sharp and polished. No issue. Family disagreement. I turned to him. There is an issue. That poster lists my state nursing license number without permission. Please do not photograph me beside it as if I endorsed it. Elise stopped sorting programs. The top one slid off the pile and landed on the table open to the sponsor page. My name was there too. Under Clinical Integrity Partner. Vivian reached for it, but Elisa's hand landed on the paper first. At 7:17, my phone buzzed in my pocket. 1 minute until Vivian's remarks. I took the program from the table, the unsigned acknowledgement card still in my other hand, and stepped backward toward the glass doors where the light was better. Claire, Vivian said, no smile now, give me that. I looked past her at the poster, at my license number under the flowers, at the donors finally watching without pretending. No, I said. I'm keeping the copy with my name on it. Vivian reached for the acknowledgement card anyway, so I stepped backward until my shoulder hit the edge of the registration table. A stack of cream envelopes slid sideways, and one of the volunteer name tags clattered onto the marble floor. Mr. Keene, the Lark House event manager, came over fast with his tablet tucked under his arm. Is there a problem at the donor table? Vivian turned toward him with the face she used for contractors and waiters. Calm, disappointed, expensive. My sister is having a moment. We're fine. We are not fine, I said, and I held the card flat against my chest so she couldn't snatch it. This event is displaying my RN license number without my permission. At 7:16, my phone buzzed in my hand. The screen showed an unfamiliar state office number, the one I had saved after leaving 2 messages that week. I answered before Vivian could say another word. Claire Bennett. A woman asked yes. This is Marisol Grant with the State Nursing Board. I'm responding to your complaint receipt filed this afternoon and the certified emails attached to it. Are you in a safe place to speak? I looked at the compliance poster 10 feet away, the one with gold lettering and white orchids clipped to the frame. My license number printed beneath Vivian's clinic logo like a sponsor seal. I'm at the Lark House Conservatory, I said. At my sister's clinic gala, they're using my license here tonight. Vivian's lips parted, but she didn't speak. Elise had come up behind her, holding the program booklet against her stomach. Marisol's voice sharpened. Not dramatic, just focused. Is the listing currently visible to the public? Yes, I said. On a poster and in the program. And they just asked me to sign an oversight acknowledgement dated April 26th. Do not sign it, Marisol said. I didn't. Good. I'm already looking at the screenshots you submitted from the state license listing portal. The clinic profile updated on May 3rd at 9:42 a.m. lists your license as the responsible clinical reviewer. Your certified email to Vivian Hale on May 4th states you did not authorize that use. I also see a second email to the clinic administrator on May 8th with the same warning. I put Marisol on speaker. Not loud enough for the whole conservatory, but loud enough for Vivian, Elise, Mr. Keene, and Dr. Patel, who had stopped beside the sponsor wall with his champagne untouched. Vivian whispered, Claire, take it off speaker. I didn't. Marisol continued, Ms. Bennett, I need you to photograph the poster, the program page, and that unsigned acknowledgement card before anyone removes them. Include the date placard or event signage if possible. Mr. Keene looked from my phone to Vivian. We can pause the remarks. No, Vivian said quickly. We're not pausing anything. This is a family misunderstanding. It's a license matter, Marisol said through the speaker. Not a family matter. That was the first clean crack in Vivian's story. Not my tone. Not my resentment. Not some childhood argument she could package as jealousy. A state investigator was reading the same certified emails Vivian had ignored, with dates and timestamps while my license number stood on a poster behind her. I set the acknowledgement card on the registration table and took photos. One close-up of my RN number, one wide shot with the Lark House Conservatory banner, one of the program page that called me clinical integrity partner. My hands were steady enough to zoom in on the May 3rd wording. Marisol asked about if you're watching this and you'd want to see those screenshots before believing either sister. Comment May 3rd below, because that timestamp is what broke open the whole night. And keep watching, because once Marisol asked who had access to the clinic's state portal login, Vivian stopped looking worried and started looking for someone to blame. Marisol didn't let the question hang as a threat. She asked it the way nurses ask medication allergies, flat and necessary. Who had access to the state portal login used to update the clinic profile on May 3rd? I looked at Vivian. She had one hand on the edge of the registration table, thumb pressed into the linen like she was smoothing out a wrinkle that wasn't there. Operations handles that, she said. Claire wouldn't know. I said into the phone, I don't have portal access. I've never had a login for Magnolia Row Wellness, Marisol said. I'm making a note of that. Can you identify the clinic administrator present tonight? Across the entry hall, behind a tower of champagne flutes, Nina Patel was checking names off the donor list with a gold pen. Nina had been sending me the cheerful emails for weeks, parking instructions, gala arrival time, what color dress would look good in photos. She had never answered my May 8th certified email. I walked over slowly, not because I wanted an audience, but because I wanted everyone to see I wasn't whispering. Nina, I said, Marisol Grant from the State Nursing Board is asking who had portal access for the May 3rd license listing update. Nina's pen stopped above the name Hollis Family Foundation. She glanced at Vivian first, not at me. Vivian gave a tight little laugh. This is not the place. Mr. Keene stepped in beside us, holding the program folded against his chest. It may be exactly the place if the program is inaccurate. Nina set the pen down. I have administrative access, she said. Vivian has owner access. Our outside billing vendor had limited access last year, but not for clinical profiles. Marisol must have heard her because she said, please ask Ms. Patel whether she made the May 3rd update. I repeated it. Nina swallowed. No. I uploaded Gala sponsor logos that morning, but not the clinical license page. Vivian turned on her immediately. Nina, be careful. You handle compliance documents. I handle files you approve, Nina said. Quieter now, but clear. You sent me the nurse license number in the April 29th email. That was the first time anyone near the check-in table moved closer on purpose. Not dramatically, just a half step. The donor in the navy shawl lowered her champagne. The young photographer stopped pretending to adjust his flash. Vivian said, that was for internal drafting. Nina opened her phone with shaking fingers. Subject line, Gala Compliance Language Final. April 29th, 6:13 p.m. Mr. Keene leaned over just enough to read without touching her screen. It says, use Claire's RN number under clinical oversight until she signs. She won't make a fuss in front of donors. My mouth went dry, but I kept my voice level. Read the next line. Nina looked at Vivian, then back at the screen. It says, if she asks, tell her it's only an acknowledgement card, not an employment form. The card was still on the registration table between the place cards and the silver bowl of lapel pins. I picked it up by the corner and held it where Mr. Keene could see the blank signature line. Marisol said through the phone, Ms. Claire, I need you to preserve that email if it's forwarded to you, but do not take Ms. Patel's device. Ask whether she is willing to send it directly to the board. Nina nodded before I finished the sentence. I'll send it. Vivian snapped, Nina, you are an employee. Nina's face flushed. I'm also the person whose name is on the upload log for sponsor logos, and I'm not taking the May 3rd clinical update for you. That landed harder than any accusation I could have made. Not because it was loud, but because it was specific. Mr. Keene pulled a small leather notebook from his jacket pocket. What time did you upload the sponsor logos? 9:18 a.m., Nina said. The clinical profile update was 9:42. Marisol asked, did Ms. Vivian have portal access from her office at that time? Nina looked toward the double doors leading into the conservatory, where Vivian's framed founder portrait was set near the orchid wall. She was here doing the donor walkthrough. She used my laptop at the registration desk because hers was in the car. Vivian's face hardened. That is not proof of intent. No, Mr. Keene said, writing, but it is a timeline. From inside the glass conservatory, someone tapped a microphone twice. The sound carried through the plants and stone floor. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin remarks in 3 minutes. Mr. Keene closed the program. Not yet, he told the event coordinator, who had appeared with a headset and a panicked smile. Pull the compliance poster from the stage area. Vivian stepped between him and the doors. You are not embarrassing this clinic in front of 74 donors. One held up the unsigned acknowledgement card with my license number printed under my name. You already did that when you asked me to smile beside this. Vivian's hand shot out for the acknowledgement card, but I tucked it against my ribs before she could grab it. Claire, she said, lowering her voice the way Mom used to when guests were in the living room. You're making this sound criminal. It was a misunderstanding. Nina probably used the wrong template. Your license number was in an old family file because you helped us during planning. Mr. Keene looked at Nina. Did you have an old family file? Nina's face had gone blotchy under the conservatory lights. No, we have a compliance drive. Vivian turned on her. Nina, don't guess. I'm not guessing, Nina said. Her phone was in both hands now, thumbs shaking. I'm forwarding the April 29th email to Ms. Grant. At Marisol Grant's name, Vivian's posture changed. Not softer, sharper. You contacted the board during a fundraiser. She asked me, like that was the offense. Do you understand what that does to donor confidence? I contacted the board after I contacted you. I said, she gave a tiny laugh toward Mr. Keene, like she was inviting him to be the adult in the room. She sent emotional emails. I was in launch week. I didn't see every message. That was the first version of the story that sounded rehearsed. I opened my bag. The black satin clutch, she had told me, was more gala appropriate than my work tote. Inside, folded twice around my driver's license, were the certified email receipts I had printed that afternoon at the UPS store on Carlisle Avenue. The paper was too thick and bright for the pretty room. It looked like it belonged in a courthouse lobby, not under hanging ferns and champagne flutes. I handed the top page to Mr. Keene. May 1st, I said. Subject line. Remove my RN license from Lark House Wellness Materials. Sent to Vivian's clinic address and personal address. Delivery confirmed at 7:44 a.m. Opened on the clinic address at 8:02. Vivian's mouth tightened. Opened doesn't mean read. I handed him the second page. May 2nd. Subject line. No consent to list my license. Delivered at 6:18 p.m. Opened at 6:21. Forwarded from Vivian's clinic address to Nina at 6:24 with the note. Ignore until after Gala, Nina whispered. I forgot about that one. Vivian swung toward her. You don't have to narrate every thought that enters your head. From beyond the glass doors, applause started in the main room. Someone was testing the podium microphone, tapping it twice, then saying, Welcome, friends of Lark House, too close to the speaker. Mr. Keene read the receipt again. His jaw moved once, like he was grinding down what he wanted to say. Then he held out his hand to me. Do you have copies of the screenshots too? I nodded and pulled out the folded printouts from the state license listing page. The first screenshot showed my name under clinical oversight. On May 3rd at 9:42 a.m., the second showed the same page after Vivian's Gala team had added the gold sponsor banner across the top dot. Vivian pointed at the paper. That's not a legal document. It's a website. Websites update wrong all the time. Marisol Grant's voice came from Nina's phone on speaker.com, and close enough that Vivian actually stepped back. Ms. Vale, Marisol said, websites do update wrong. That's why we ask who had access, who gave instructions, and who ignored written notice. Ms. Patel, please do not delete anything from that portal. Nina swallowed. I won't. The event coordinator cracked the door open again, headset wire pressed to her cheek. Mr. Keene, they're asking if Ms. Vale is still doing the donor compliance remarks. Vivian looked at him, then at me, and for 1 second I saw the calculation. The donors, the poster, the license number, the state investigator listening from a phone balanced in Nina's palm. Mr. Keene folded my certified receipts carefully, as if creasing them wrong would make him responsible too. No, he said, she is not. Vivian found us before Mr. Keene could decide where to put his hands. She came through the service door beside the coat closet, one palm pressed flat to the front of her champagne dress like she was holding herself together by the zipper. Behind her, I could still hear the string quartet playing in the conservatory and the soft scrape of chairs as 74 donors waited for the next part of the program. "What are you doing back here?" she asked me first, not Mr. Keen. Her eyes flicked to the folder under his arm, then to my phone on the windowsill with Marisol still connected. "I'm not going on stage," I said. Vivian blinked once. "Nobody asked you to go on stage. You asked me to stand beside the compliance poster. That is not on stage, Claire. It's a photo." Nina appeared behind her with a tablet tucked against her ribs. The green room we'd stepped into was really a narrow prep room for catering, with stacked water glasses, a rolling rack of linen napkins, and 2 cardboard boxes labeled auction paddles in black marker. The clinic's glossy poster leaned against the far wall now, angled away from the door. My license number still sat under the line that said Nursing Oversight. C. Mercer, RN. I looked at it longer than I should have. That was my hesitation. I hated that my first instinct was still to make this easier for everyone else. I thought about Mom in the front row, about donors whispering, about Vivian's face in every local magazine that had treated her clinic like a miracle instead of a business. For maybe 3 seconds, I considered saying, "Take my name down after tonight." That was my mistake. Not saying it out loud, but letting the idea exist. Vivian saw the pause and stepped into it. "Thank you," she said quietly, already softer. "Just stand there for 2 minutes. Smile. We'll fix the back end tomorrow, and you can send whatever wording you want." "No." Her jaw tightened. "Claire?" "No. Vivian, I am not your supervising nurse. I am not your compliance officer. I am not family help you can point at when donors ask who keeps this legal." Nina shifted the tablet under her arm. "We can change the slide before the remarks." "Then change it now," I said. Vivian turned on her. "Do not touch anything." Mr. Keen cleared his throat. "Vivian, the state investigator, is on the phone." Vivian's face changed. Not dramatically, but enough. Her public smile drained into something flat and managerial. "Who?" she asked. I picked up my phone from the windowsill. "Marisol Grant, State Nursing Board." The speaker crackled once. "Ms. Grant's voice came through calm and dry. "Ms. Mercer, I'm still here. Ms. Holt, do not direct staff to alter or delete portal entries, donor materials, or internal communications. Preservation begins now." Vivian stared at the phone like it had insulted her. "This is a fundraising event," she said. "You have no idea what you're interrupting." "I understand there is a public representation of licensed nursing oversight under Ms. Mercer's number," Marisol said. "That is exactly what I'm concerned about." From outside, applause rose and faded. Someone must have announced the raffle basket winners. I heard Mom laugh once, that bright, nervous laugh she used when she wanted strangers to like us. Vivian lowered her voice. "Claire, please don't humiliate me in front of these people." I looked at the poster again, at my number printed in navy ink, like consent was a font choice. "I emailed you May 1st. I said, certified, delivered, opened." I emailed again May 2nd. You forwarded it to Nina and wrote, "Ignore until after Gala." Nina stared at the floor. Vivian's nostrils flared. "Because you always panic. You make everything sound like an emergency. My license is not your decoration." She flinched then, just a little, because I had finally named it in a way donors would understand. Mr. Keen stepped between the poster and the door. "The remarks are canceled until I review this." "They are not canceled," Vivian said. "Yes," I said, "they are. At least the part with my name." Vivian looked past me toward the conservatory, toward the lights, the auction paddles, the people who had already written checks. Then she looked back at me like I was the expensive problem she had not budgeted for. "Fine," she said. "Go home." I picked up my folder, my phone, and the printed screenshots from the side table. "No," I said. "I'm staying until that poster is removed." Marisol didn't let Vivian touch the poster. She stepped between my sister and the foam board, took a photo of it with her board-issued phone, then asked one of the Lark House staff for a pair of nitrile gloves from the catering kit. At 8:11 p.m., a server named Denise brought over a blue pair still in the box. "Ms. Avery," Marisol said to Vivian, "you can direct venue staff to remove it from public display, but you are not to destroy it. Fold it, write on it, or take it to your car." Vivian looked past her at me, like I had somehow choreographed every word. Mr. Keen came in, holding his tablet against his chest. "Donors are asking why the remarks were pulled." "Tell them there's a compliance review," Marisol said. Vivian snapped, "You cannot say that in the middle of my fundraiser." Marisol's voice stayed flat. "Then you say the program has been amended." But if anyone asks whether Claire Bennett is acting as clinical oversight tonight, the answer is no. That was the first time someone in that building had said it clearly. Denise and another staffer unclipped the poster from the brass easel. The bottom corner caught on the metal lip, and my license number flashed again under the words Nursing Director Oversight. I looked at the last 4 digits because I had spent months trying to make people understand those numbers were not decoration. Marisol had Denise place the poster face up across a linen-covered prep table. She wrote the time, location, and names of the staff who handled it in a small spiral notebook. Then she turned to me. Ms. Bennett, tomorrow by noon I need your complaint receipt. The state listing screenshots and copies of the certified emails with full headers if you have them. Not forwarded screenshots. The originals. I have the receipts in my folder, I said. The headers are on my laptop at home. Good. Do not send them to your sister first. My mother appeared in the doorway with her wrap crooked on one shoulder. Marisol, can't this be handled privately? There are people out there who gave money for pediatric access. Marisol looked at her. This is being handled as privately as possible. The public part was the clinic using a license number on donor materials. Mom pressed her lips together and looked at Vivian. Not me. What happens now? Marisol slid a business card from the back of her badge holder and set it on the prep table. The board opens a formal review of the listing. We request portal access logs from the clinic's compliance vendor. We request the last 3 versions of any donor packet, poster file, website page, and internal staffing chart that used Ms. Bennett's license number or title. We may interview staff who prepared or approved those documents. Vivian folded her arms. And if it was a clerical error, then the records will show that, Marisol said, and you'll correct it through an amended filing, not a quiet edit at midnight. Mr. Keene shifted near the coffee urn. Do we need to close the event? You need to stop making compliance representations tonight, Marisol said. You can collect donations only if your solicitation script and materials are amended to remove clinical oversight claims connected to Ms. Bennett. I would also advise holding restricted medical program funds in the clinic account until council reviews what donors were told. Vivian's face tightened at the word funds. There it was. Not guilt. Not concern over my license. The money. Mom whispered. Vivian. Vivian turned on her. I am trying to keep 74 donors from walking out. And I'm trying to keep my license. I said. No one answered me. At 8:24 p.m., Mr. Keene sent an email from his tablet to the event staff list. I watched the subject line before he hit send. Program amendment, remove compliance display, nitrogen monoxide clinical oversight remarks. Marisol asked him to forward me a copy. Vivian objected immediately. She's not staff, Marisol said. She's the license holder named on your materials. Mr. Keene typed my address without looking at Vivian. My phone buzzed in my hand a few seconds later. For once, there was an email about my license that I had not had to beg someone to answer. I left Lark House at 8:47 p.m. through the side door by the catering vans, not the glass entrance where Vivian was still trying to smile at donors beside a table of untouched lemon tarts. The cold air smelled like wet leaves and fryer oil from the kitchen exhaust. I stood under the loading dock, light with my tote bag against my chest, and opened Mr. Keene's email. Subject, corrected Gala program notice. It was only 4 sentences. It said, Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness had incorrectly identified me in printed materials and that I was not an employee, director, clinical supervisor, or authorized representative of the clinic. It also said all questions about clinical oversight should go to Vivian and the clinic's retained compliance vendor. He had copied Marisol Grant. I read it twice, then saved it to the folder I had named License Do Not Delete. That folder was not sentimental. It had no pictures, no birthday cards, no old texts where Vivian called me her smart sister. It had screenshots, certified email receipts, delivery confirmations, the board complaint receipt, and now one clean admission that I was not what they had told donors I was. At 9:03, I got into my car and sat there with the engine off. My black flats were damp from the conservatory floor, and there was still a square indent on my forearm from carrying the framed poster Vivian wanted me to stand next to. That was the part I kept coming back to. Not the legal words, not the donors, not even the license number printed in bold. It was her hand on my elbow, steering me toward that poster, saying, just smile for 2 minutes. Don't make this awkward. I had spent years making things not awkward. I covered shifts when my mother forgot appointments. I wrote quick explanations for Vivian's grant forms. I answered medication questions at Thanksgiving because someone's neighbor's cousin had swelling after a procedure. I became useful in the way a light switch is useful. People were irritated when it did not work, but nobody thanked the wall. At 9:18, my phone rang. Mom, I watched her name flash until it stopped. Then came a text. Please don't punish your sister in public. She was under pressure. I typed, she used my license number without permission and ignored my written warnings. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Family handles things privately. I looked through the windshield at the Lark House dumpsters, where a catering worker was flattening cardboard wine boxes with his boot. I wrote back, my license is not private family property. Then I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat. At home, I did not go to bed. I changed into sweatpants, made coffee I didn't want, and sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, a yellow legal pad, and the certified mail receipts fanned out beside me. At 10:06 p.m., I logged into my email from the browser, not the app, because Marisol had said original headers mattered. I opened the first email I had sent Vivian on March 4th. Subject: remove my RN license from clinic listing. I clicked Show Original, downloaded the file, and named it 03-04-Vivian-license-removal-header.eml. Then March 19th, then April 2nd, then the one to the clinic's general inbox. Then the one to their compliance vendor. At 11:41, I found Vivian's only reply. Claire, you are overreacting. It's a placeholder until the new arrangement is finalized. Please don't create drama. I printed it. The printer made that slow, grinding sound it made when it was low on toner. And the page came out with one pale stripe down the side. I put it on the table anyway because the words were still readable. By midnight, I had a stack clipped in order. Screenshots, certified emails, postal receipts, board complaint receipt, Mr. Keen's correction, and Vivian's placeholder reply. The cost of being useful was that people started confusing access with consent. So I wrote one more note on the yellow pad for the morning. Send to Marisol before noon. No calls with family. No explanations without a record. If you take anything from this part, let it be this. Put your boundary in writing before someone else puts your name on their wall. At 7:18 the next morning, I scanned the packet at the nurse's station copier before my shift started. I fed in the screenshots of the state license listing, the certified email receipts, Mr. Keen's corrected Gala program, and the board complaint receipt I'd printed twice, because the first one came out with a gray stripe across the case number. By 7:42, I sent Marisol Grant one email with the subject line she had given me. Vellum Aesthetics, unauthorized license listing, supplemental documents. I attached the PDF and wrote only 6 sentences. Dates, names, the fact that I had not agreed to serve as medical oversight, the fact that I had asked Vivian and the clinic in writing to remove my license before the gala. At 8:06, Marisol replied, received, please do not engage in undocumented corrective conversations with the clinic. If they provide updated account records, forward them. I read that line 3 times, then put my phone face down next to my coffee. By 9:11, Vivian had called 4 times. She left one voicemail, 42 seconds long. Claire, I know you're angry, she said, sounding like she was walking outside because I could hear traffic. But the vendor is saying it was a legacy profile issue. We can fix this today. If you just confirm to them that there was confusion, nobody is trying to hurt you. Please don't make Marisol think I'm some criminal. There it was. Not I used your license. Not I lied at Lark House. Just confusion. Legacy profile. Please don't let me look bad. At 9:27, an email came from Linden Compliance Solutions. The subject line was Provider Directory Correction Confirmation. It said my license number had been removed from Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness's public compliance page. As of 9:24 a.m. attached was a one-page audit note showing the admin user who added it, v.stone@stoneaesthetics.com. May 3rd, 10:13 p.m. The reason, field said. Temporary oversight listing for fundraiser materials. I forwarded it to Marisol without adding commentary. At 10:03, the clinic's Instagram story disappeared. The one with Vivian in front of the compliance poster and me standing beside her in my navy dress was gone. 10 minutes later, a new post went up. We are updating administrative materials to better reflect our expanding advisory team. No apology, no name. Then donors started texting. Mrs. Halloway, who had hugged Vivian at the silent auction, wrote, Claire, were you actually affiliated with the clinic? My husband and I donated under the impression nursing oversight was in place. I answered, I was not employed by or serving as oversight for the clinic. Please refer questions to Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness or the State Board. I copied that into my notes app and used it 3 more times before lunch. At 11:36, Mom emailed me. She didn't text this time. The subject line was, "Your sister, Claire. Vivian has worked too hard for this to be destroyed by one bad administrative choice. She says the clinic account has been corrected. Can you tell the investigator you accept that?" I stared at the word accept while Mrs. Alvarez in room 214 asked if I could warm her blanket. I put the phone away, warmed the blanket, checked a post-op drain, and waited until my break. At 12:22, I replied from my personal email. "Mom, I am not negotiating my nursing license through family messages. Once submitted records to the board, Vivian can communicate corrections directly to the investigator." By 1:05, Mr. Keene sent another email, this time to all Gala attendees. He wrote that the printed program had incorrectly implied clinical authorization by Claire Bennett, RN, and that donations could be redirected or refunded by request through Friday at 5 p.m. He CC'd Vivian. He CC'd Vivian. He CC'd me. He also CC'd Marisol Grant. That CC mattered. At 3:40, payroll called from Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness. A woman named Bethany said they had discovered an inactive contractor profile under my name. "I need you to confirm your mailing address for a voided 1099 correction," she said. "I never contracted with Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness," I told her. "Send whatever record you have by email." At 3:58, the record arrived. My name, my old apartment address, $0 paid. Role, clinical compliance consultant. Created May 4th. I forwarded that to that night. Vivian finally stopped calling. Instead, she sent one message at 8:09. "I'm sorry I put you in a bad position. I thought if the clinic looked more established, everything would catch up later." I did not answer. I saved the screenshot, renamed it Vivian Admission 809, and put it in the same folder as the license listing. By the second week of September, my mornings had stopped starting with screenshots. I woke up at 5:50, fed Milo, my orange cat, from the chipped blue bowl by the back door, and packed my lunch in the same gray insulated bag I'd used before. Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness ever put my name on a poster. At 6:35, I drove to Mercy West with the radio low and my badge already clipped to my scrub pocket, because I liked arriving before the elevators filled up. My manager, Leah, caught me at the medication room door that Monday and handed me a sealed envelope. "This came through HR." She said, "I figured you'd want it before rounds." It was from the State Nursing Board. Not a decision, not yet. Just a notice that the complaint had moved from intake to formal review, with Marisol Grant listed as the investigator assigned. The letter referenced the certified emails, the state license listing screenshots, the Linden compliance audit, and public promotional use of license number at Lark House Conservatory fundraising event. I read it twice beside the Pixies machine while the printer coughed out Morning Mars. Tasha didn't ask for details. She just said, "Do you need 5 minutes?" "No," I said, folding the letter back into the envelope. "I need my patient's blood sugars." That was the first small sign that my life was mine again. Not fixed, not clean, just mine. At lunch, I sat outside on the concrete bench near the ambulance bay with a turkey sandwich and a cup of hospital coffee that tasted like burnt pennies. I opened my phone and saw a text from my mother. "Vivian is under terrible stress. Please don't make this harder at Thanksgiving." I stared at it long enough for the screen to dim. Then I typed, deleted, and finally sent one sentence. "I'm not discussing my license at family dinners." She replied with 3 dots. Then nothing. Vivian didn't call. She had stopped leaving voicemails after I stopped picking up from unknown numbers. I heard about her in pieces, never from her directly. A cousin sent me a screenshot of Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness website where the clinical leadership page had been replaced with a single paragraph about reviewing internal procedures. Mr. Keene's donor email had made its way around town, and apparently several donors redirected their pledges to the county mobile health program instead. I didn't celebrate that. I also didn't feel sorry enough to soften the truth. On Wednesday evening, I went to the copy shop on Ashland and printed a clean set of everything for my own records. The clerk slid the stack across the counter with a rubber band around it. Board complaint receipt. Certified email confirmations. The May 3rd license listing screenshot. The Gala photo where Vivian had her hand hovering near my back beside the compliance poster with my license number. I bought a black file box with a latch and drove home in the rain. For the first time, I did not put the box under my bed like contraband. I labeled it in plain black marker, license protection. Then I set it on the top shelf of the hall closet next to batteries, light bulbs, and extra furnace filters. Ordinary things, necessary things. On Friday, Dad stopped by without calling first. I saw his truck through the kitchen window and almost didn't open the door, but he was holding a paper bag from Colson's bakery. I brought lemon bars, he said, awkwardly, like baked goods could stand in for a position. I let him in. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I had once helped Vivian study for her business certification while she complained that clinical people made everything too complicated. Dad looked older in the yellow light over the stove. Your mother thinks this will blow over, he said. It won't blow over for me. He nodded at the table, not at me. Vivian says she didn't mean to hurt your career. She meant to use it. He didn't argue. That was new. After a minute, he pushed the bakery bag toward me. I should have asked more questions at the gala. You heard her call me family help. I did. And you smiled for the photo. His jaw tightened. He wiped a crumb from the table with his thumb. I did. There wasn't a speech after that. No hug, no big repair. He stayed 20 minutes, ate half a lemon bar, and left the rest wrapped in wax paper by my sink. That night, I washed my scrubs, set my alarm, and put Marisol Grant's letter in the black file box. Before I closed the closet, I looked at the label one more time. License protection. Not revenge, not drama, not being difficult. Protection. The last envelope came on a Thursday, January 11th at 3:42 p.m. I know because I was home early from the hospital where I actually worked, still wearing my Navy scrubs, and the mail carrier knocked because it was certified. The return address was the state nursing board. I set it on my kitchen table beside the blue file box, the same one with the label that said Vellum Aesthetics, license use. I opened it with scissors instead of tearing it, because by then, every piece of paper felt like something I might need later. The letter was 3 pages. Marisol Grant's name was on the second paragraph. It said the board had completed its review of my complaint and the supporting materials, the state license listing screenshots, the certified emails I had sent to Vivian and Vellum, Aesthetics and Wellness, the complaint receipt, the Linden compliance audit note, and the Lark House Conservatory promotional materials showing my license number beside their compliance poster. The sentence I read twice was simple. No disciplinary action will be taken against Claire Bennett, RN, based on the board's finding that her license information was listed and displayed without her authorization. I sat there for a minute with my hand flat on the page. Not happy, exactly, not victorious, just steady. The letter also said Vellum Aesthetics and Wellness had been instructed to remove my license from all internal and public-facing materials and that related concerns had been referred to the appropriate clinic licensing office. It did not say Vivian was ruined. It did not say my family finally understood. It did not fix Christmas or Thanksgiving or every dinner where I had been treated like the person who made things awkward by telling the truth. But it protected the thing I had earned. At 4:18, I scanned the letter and saved it in the same folder as the gala photos. Then I printed one copy and put it in the file box. My mother called at 4:31. I let it ring. Then I texted, I received the board's decision. My license is clear. I'm not discussing Vivian's clinic or the gala anymore. If anyone wants a relationship with me, it has to be one where my work and credentials are respected. She wrote back 10 minutes later. Can we please not make every family event about this? I typed, deleted, and typed again. I didn't bring my license to Lark House. Vivian did. She didn't answer. 2 nights later, my father met me at the little diner off Route 9, the one with cracked red vinyl booths and coffee that always tasted burnt. He slid into the seat across from me with his cap in his hands. Your mother thinks you're being final, he said. I am being clear. He nodded slowly. There's a difference. That was the closest he came to saying he understood. But this time, I didn't reach across the table and turn it into more than it was. I just stirred my coffee and let the sentence stand. Vivian sent 1 email in February. No subject line, 3 sentences. I hope you're satisfied with how far this went. We lost donors because of the confusion. I never meant to hurt you. I forwarded it to my records folder without replying. Because that was the part I finally understood. Not every message needs an answer. Not every accusation needs a defense. And not every family role is worth keeping. I renewed my nursing license in March from my own laptop, at my own kitchen table, with my own payment card. When the confirmation page loaded, I printed it, wrote the date in the corner, and put it in a new folder labeled Current License, Personal Use Only. That is where my boundaries stayed. My sister could keep her clinic, her donors, her speeches, and whatever version of the story made her comfortable. My mother could keep pretending peace meant silence. But my name, my license number, and my credibility were no longer decorations for anyone else's ambition. That is the end of my story. If you were in my position, would you have gone to the board sooner, or would you have tried one more time to handle it inside the family? Tell me in the comments. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. I'll also put a short list in the description of the documents I kept that protected me.